Welcome to Hart County Public Library Outreach Virtual Storytime. We are so glad that you could join us.
The Boxcar Children, The Lighthouse Mystery, based on the book by Gertrude, Chandler, Warner. "Can we stop soon?" said Benny Alden. "I'm hungry." The Aldens were driving home from Aunt Jane's. "If we stop each time you get hungry, we'll never get home," said Violet. Grandfather laughed. "That's all right," he said. "We will stop in Conley. We can picnic by the old lighthouse." "Can we go to the top of the lighthouse?" Benny asked at Hall's grocery. "You can do more than that," Mr. Hall said. "You can stay there." "We do not use it anymore. We rent it to visitors." If one thing made Benny forget about being hungry, it was an adventure. "Can we stay, please?" Benny said. Grandfather smiled. "A few nights wouldn't hurt." Henry, Jessie, Violet, and Benny loved to explore new places. At one time, the children had lived in a boxcar. They had many adventures in the boxcar. Then Grandfather found them. Now they had a real home, and they still had all kinds of adventures. "This will be your room, Grandfather," Benny said. He ran up the circle staircase. "Henry's room," he called. Benny ran up again. "Jessie and Watch." Benny ran up once more. This time he was out of breath. "Violet, Benny," he called. The children laughed. They wondered what surprises their funny new home might hold. The Aldens' first surprise was a loud one. In the middle of the night, Watch began to growl. He barked and howled. The children could not find why Watch was upset. At last Benny said, "I think I smell food." Violet giggled. "You must still be dreaming." The Aldens went back to bed. In the morning, the children went exploring. They passed by a little shack and went down to the beach. Violet found all kinds of shells. Benny found strange seaweed. But what Henry found was extra strange. It was full of shapes and scribbles. "I can't make sense of this paper," Henry said. "Maybe it's a clue," said Benny. For supper, the Aldens planned a cookout on the beach. On the way to Hall's grocery, they saw a young man. He looked very tired and not very friendly. The children asked Mr. Hall about the young man. "That is Larry Cook," said Mr. Hall. "He's a nice boy, but he's been upset lately." Why was the young man in such a bad mood? On the beach, the Aldens made chairs out of rocks and sand. Grandfather cooked hot dogs over the fire. Benny cooked a piece of seaweed on a stick. "It's seafood," he said. But when Benny took a bite, all he tasted was salt. He gave the rest to Watch. The Aldens knew just what to do. This time when they passed the Sea Star, Benny blurted, "Do you want a friend?" Larry did not know what to say. "I think he means," Jessie said, "do you want help with the village meal?" For the first time, Larry gave a small smile. After supper, the children sat on top of the lighthouse. They watched the stars over the sea. One star kept moving. It was not a star at all. "It's a boat," said Henry. "How strange," Jessie said. "Who could be out at this hour?" Later that night, Watch again began to bark and howl. This time, the children found a clue out the window. Someone was on the beach. The person went from the dock to the empty little shack next door. In the morning, the Aldens looked for more clues. The little shack was locked. Henry helped Benny peek in. "I see books," said Benny, "and paper like Henry found, and a stove and a frying pan." Benny jumped down. "I knew I smelled food at night." But what did it mean? At the dock, Larry Cook was working with his father. Larry looked even more tired and upset than before. The name on the boat gave Violet an idea. Was the boat the light they saw at night? At the store, Mr. Hall asked, "Are you children coming to the village meal tomorrow?" He said the meal was to raise money to help others. "Who makes the meal?" asked Jessie. "Larry Cook," said Mr. Hall. "Larry?" said Benny. "We thought he was mean." Mr. Hall sighed. "I think he is just sad. His friends went off to school. Larry stayed to help his father." The Aldens knew just what to do. This time when they passed the Sea Star, Benny blurted, "Do you want a friend?" Larry did not know what to say. "I think he means," Jessie said, "do you want help with the village meal?" For the first time, Larry gave a small smile. The next morning, the children helped Larry make the meal. The recipe was full of shapes and scribbles. Henry could not understand it, but Larry read it easily. When the cooking was done, the children tried their chowder. "Your seafood is much better than mine," said Benny. The meal was a big success. Still, Larry did not seem happy. "You are a gifted cook," a woman told Larry. "Do you study at school?" But the woman could tell by Larry's frown that the answer was no. "I think Larry wants to go to school like his friends," Benny whispered. That night it rained and stormed. The children talked about Larry and the boat on the sea and the little shack next door. "Maybe Larry takes the Sea Star out at night," said Violet. "That is why he is so tired." "I think those are his recipes in the little shack," said Henry. Jessie spoke up. "He must go out fishing and then practice cooking. That's why his food is so tasty," said Benny. The children looked outside. There was only one star out. It was moving all around. Larry was out in the storm. He needed their help. The children took their flashlights to the top of the lighthouse. They shined their lights at the mirror. "It's working," said Benny. Slowly the Sea Star followed the light in. Larry was cold and wet, but he was safe. Larry told his father what had happened. He thought his father would be mad. But Mr. Cook apologized. "I did not know you wanted to cook so badly. I should have let you go off to school." The next day, a visitor arrived. It was the woman from the village meal. She had heard Larry's story. "How would you like to study to be a chef?" she asked. Larry looked at his father. Mr. Cook nodded. "Hooray!" Benny said. "You won't have to cook in the night." Larry gave his biggest smile yet. Benny was right. For the first time, his future was looking bright.